Hello everyone, this is Jeremy Malfay with Fundamental Tennis. I have two quick tips today about racket awareness. First of all, what is racket awareness? Well, if I know where my racket is in space at all times, specifically the angle of the strings, then it's going to be a lot easier for me to control the ball. It's going to be a lot easier for me to place the ball because the angle of the strings at contact greatly determines the direction of the ball and the height of the ball. So, a great example of having poor racket awareness is go out on the court and try to use a completely different grip on your forehand than what you normally use. You're going to find that you have a lot of trouble knowing where your racket face is pointing. Therefore, you're going to have a lot of trouble controlling the ball because you hit the ball with this object that you're holding. If you don't know where the object is in space, then you're going to have trouble controlling this tennis ball object. So, two tips to improve your racket awareness, aka two tips to help you control the ball better, because again, the racket obviously controls the ball. The first tip is about relaxation. Most people, and I think many coaches as well, don't realize that by holding the grip fairly loose, you actually gain better kinesthetic feeling of where your racket face is in space, specifically the angle of your strings. So, how loose, however, should we hold the grip? Because it's not easy to describe in words, but it's much easier, I feel, to describe with feelings, okay, a sensation. Now, for example, on the forehand side, if I take my racket back and I feel the weight of the racket in the handle, or I feel tension in the handle, or said another way, I don't feel the weight of the racket head during the backswing and during my downward swing, then I'm holding the grip too tight. So we want to feel the weight of the racket head during the backswing. That goes for the serve, that goes for the backhand, a two-handed backhand. We want to feel the weight of the racket. If you do not feel the weight of the racket, then you're holding the grip too tight. Another tip I like to tell people is, on the forehand, for example, you can apply this to other strokes as well. When you take the racket back, you want to hold the grip as loose as possible while still being able to maintain the racket head above your hand. Obviously, you could also experiment with different grip tensions, but I would say at least 98–99% of the tennis world holds the grip much too tight. Therefore, they will not have as good a feel for the ball or as good a feel for their racket. And this, of course, is not good for controlling the ball. Now, a great way to practice holding the grip loose is to hit a few balls with just your two fingers. So that's going to be, two fingers is going to be your ring finger and your pinky finger. Now, the reason it's the ring finger and the pinky finger is because, believe it or not, the ring and pinky fingers are used for squeezing the grip ever so gently during the contact phase, which typically happens naturally. You do not squeeze the grip, or if you do, I don't even notice it when I do. The index, I'm talking about the index finger, the thumb. You do not use the index finger or thumb other than support. There should not be grip tension on the forehand or the backhand or the volleys or the serve when it comes to the index finger and the thumb. The grip tension, the slight grip tension, which occurs primarily just during the hitting phase, should occur, again, just the ring finger and the pinky. If you try to hit a volley, for example, with your index finger, your technique is going to look like this. In fact, that's partially why some people volley like that. So, just give it a try. In fact, when I rallied the other day, I tried rallying with just the bottom two fingers, my ring and my pinky finger, and it didn't feel all that different because I used these two fingers only in terms of the grip tension. The other fingers are just there for support. The middle finger is used a little bit, I believe, but definitely the pinky and ring finger are used most of all, and that goes for every stroke in tennis. Now, the other tip I want to tell you in terms of improving your racket awareness is hitting the ball in the middle of the strings. It is crazy to me how often people don't even realize that they're hitting the ball off center. In fact, there's so many players who tell me that they need a new grip because their grip is slippery. If your grip is slipping, I can guarantee you it is not your grip. Of course, there are grips out there that are a little better than others. However, if your grip is slipping, if your hand is shifting during the contact phase, there's no doubt that you're hitting the ball off center. Now, it's my belief that if you hit the ball off center a lot, then you will not have good feel. Of course, because you're not hitting the center of the strings. Now, also, you are going to have a tendency to have a death grip if you are not consistently hitting the ball in the dead center of the strings or very close to the center of the strings. And by the way, it also feels amazing to hit the ball in the center of the strings and holding the grip loose, okay? If you hit one ball in the center of the strings while holding the grip fairly loose, remember we talked about feeling the weight of the racket head as opposed to holding so tight you only feel it in your hand, all right? So really focus on watching the ball into your racket because that's of course gonna get you to hit the ball on the strings more often. In fact, by my definition, when players do not watch contact, meaning right before they make contact, they look at where they're aiming or they look at their opponent, not watching contact is the definition of choking. Again, this is my opinion because you're looking in the future in a negative way. Okay, so I want to stay present. I want to watch contact. You see here, Federer is a great example of watching the contact. He even watches where the ball was hit after he hits. That's a tip, bonus tip I'll give you that I like to tell my players because people think they're watching the ball and they are watching the ball because everybody watches the ball, but most people don't consistently see it hit the strings and that's why they shank the ball and that's why you are having a death grip. So you don't want a death grip because again, we just talked about holding the grip loose will help you with your kinesthetic feel of where the racket is, which of course helps you control the ball better because your racket controls the ball. So holding the grip looser is only going to happen, I believe, if you hit the ball in the center of the strings more often. If you keep shanking the ball off the side of the racket, usually from not watching contact and or misjudging the incoming ball or reading the ball late, then you are really going to have trouble holding the grip loose because you're going to feel like you got to death grip it because in a sense you do a little bit if you are hitting the side of the racket. So 2 tips once again, hold the grip loose, but first I would start with making sure that you can hit the ball clean to allow yourself to be able to be loose and the racket will not shift in your hand, your grip will not shift if you hit the ball in the center of the strings. I don't care how fast you swing that racket, if you hit the center, it is not going to slip. You're not going to need a new grip. I tell players again all the time, your grip is fine. You need to hit the ball clean. And again, people's awareness of when they hit the strings and when they hit the frame or when they hit it a little off center is quite poor. And we need to improve this awareness. We've all been told to watch contact, but I'd like you to relate that to the feeling of when you hit the ball. Once again, as I said before, it feels great to hit the middle of the strings. I tell my players if I hit the frame all the time, I'm not sure I would enjoy tennis. So 2 tips. First, work on hitting the ball clean. Improve your awareness of how often you hit the sweet spot and when you're hitting the frame as well. And then of course, I'd like you to hold the grip loose so that you can get a better feel for the ball since you'll have a better feel for where your racket is in space. Once again, this is Jeremy Mulfay with Fundamental Tennis. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please share, like it, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for the support. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to next week's video. I will see you next Sunday.